CCU Orlando and Akins Counseling Center present The Authentic Spiritual Journey, a weekly show featuring real and practical spiritual conversations from diverse perspectives here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Today, episode 47, Soul Work, Part 1. And now, your host, Reverend Cynthia Alice Anderson.
Hello, friends. Happy Monday. My name is Cynthia Alice. Welcome to the Authentic Spiritual Journey. I'm here in 818 Studios with my very talented producer.
Hey, this is Dave Croft. Hello, everybody. Hope that you had a great weekend. You ready to start off a great week?
We love being the ones that get to wish you a happy Monday, and especially it's kind of fun because we don't really record on Mondays. So.
No, and somebody might not. It might not be Monday when somebody listens to this.
That's very true. But we like to start out your week up, happy, and positive, and encourage you on the journey. Encouraging you on the spiritual journey. I need a couple more sips of coffee, Dave.
It's right there. Yeah.
Praise God for the Java.
Let's both take a victory sip.
Pause, and victory sip.
My Christmas blend. It's getting me. It's middle of May, and Christmas blend. It's carrying me through. I think I've done the math right, and I can carry my Christmas blend addiction all the way through until the 2019 Christmas blend comes out.
Oh, nice. Very, very good. Well, and I had even bought you a different Christmas blend just to mix it up,
Yeah.
So anyway, welcome to the show. We're always encouraged. We're lifted ourselves, in our own journey when we learn that you are listening, and some of you are listening quite a bit and on a regular basis.
And from very far away.
And from very far away, even from Australia.
So we want to say Gday to all of our Australian listeners. Thank you so much for listening to us literally from the other side of the planet.
Yes. What a blessing that is. And I think I've said before when we've been acknowledging other countries, I said it, I know about India. Australia is another place I've always wanted to go, and I'm sure I will get there. And so we bless you. Thank you so much for listening from so far away. And when you tell your friends, again, remember, it's a wonderful way for you to connect with them on the journey. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, 5-star reviews really do help out. And here's why. I want to take a moment and just talk about, it's not just us kind of patting our egos. It's not saying, hey, say good things about us. It's because the way that like iTunes and Stitcher, the way that their algorithms work to recommend podcasts is by the reviews. So the more reviews that we have, then the more exposure it gets to other people that may never find us necessarily through keywords and that kind of thing. And so the reviews really go a long way and go really far into helping us be recommended by like iTunes and Stitcher and Google Play. Likewise with YouTube as well. So when you like the video on YouTube, then that goes a long way to helping us get some exposure and maybe get in front of some people who otherwise would not find us.
Right. Well, the other thing I've been doing with some friends, and I notice all my baby boomer friends are not all hip to the podcast thing. I'm a Gen Xer by generation. I think you are too, or you're the lower side of the
73.
Yes, you're the lower side of the Gen Xer. But anyway, or you're at the tail end. Of Gen Xers. But anyway, most of my baby boomer friends are not super hip to how to do. In other words, how to find, how to download, how to subscribe a podcast on their phone. So the other day, I was helping a friend who had been a Sunday morning speaker, and she said, I want to listen to you. I just have no idea how. And I said, are you on an iPhone right now? Yes. Let me walk you through it. And she goes, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful. And by the way, I have a podcast too. I said, you do? So I had a friend who even had a podcast who did not know how to download it. So anyway, if you have friends like that, will you please help them? Because we really feel honored to be able to support people on the journey. And we want it to be easy and it to come right up on your phone and just go yes, and have people play it, as they drive or commute or whatever.
Absolutely. And it's even easier than that because I don't think we've announced this yet.
Oh,
and I hope I'm not putting the cart before the horse, but we are now on Spotify.
Yes.
And I love Spotify. I use it at Full Sail. I use it all. We use it at church. And so I love Spotify. You don't even have to have a premium Spotify account. And it is as simple as searching for the podcast, go to, the podcast on the left-hand side. It says like library and all that. And then there's a button there or a link called podcasts. And you can just search for Experience of the Soul. And in order to get the shows, all you have to do is follow us.
Yeah,
it's that simple.
Super easy.
It's not, you don't have to get into kind of downloading and managing episodes, and Spotify makes it really, really simple to do that.
Well, we do already have followers, I know, on Spotify. So yeah, Spotify is super cool.
Yep. And so we are on Spotify. Like I said, we're on YouTube. If you want to get notifications, then subscribe to the channel on YouTube, and there's a little notification bell, and you will get email notification when we post new shows. Speaking of YouTube, and this is the last housekeeping I'll do.
Okay,
here.
the last sales pitch.
Speaking of YouTube, we've transitioned. We for a while we were maintaining your YouTube channel as well as the Experience of the Soul YouTube channel. And we were kind of double dipping there, and I felt like it was kind of splitting the focus. So we will be posting, and have for the last several episodes. The YouTube videos for this podcast, it's no longer on its own YouTube channel, but rather on your YouTube channel.
So for Cynthia Alice Anderson is my YouTube channel,
Correct.
And there's a lot of great stuff on there. And I'm thrilled when you watch. I'm touched that you do spend the time watching. And I had a sibling just tell me that that's how she likes to watch it. She goes, I don't really want it downloaded on my phone, but what I want to do is watch it. So I'm glad we thought to set up a video camera to put it up on YouTube, because more people are watching than we imagine might. So thank you so much for that. I don't, we've been doing so much of that. I forgot to say the title of the show.
Well, we usually do a lot of this kind of stuff at the end of the show. But
yeah, that's all right. Yeah. I think it's really good because, again, we're excited about sharing the message. And the title of our show today is Soul Work.
I think it's perfect, because this channel is called The Experience of the Soul.
Yes.
And we're coming up on a year.
Yes.
We're coming up to show 50 and 52, and that's going to be the year. And so, it might be here at the end of our first year to just really talk about what that means, and what the experience of the soul, and what soul work really means.
Right. And this particular podcast is The Authentic Spiritual Journey, which of course is all about the journey of your soul. And I had some fun for a couple of the shows talking about my Southern roots, and Dave and I were talking a little bit today in the studio before we began recording. And what we really enjoyed about that was we had several experiences that were very similar. They were parallel in some ways. Our experience of the racism was so similar, and then our journeys, as we've gone. So we hope that was fun for you. It was less of a teaching necessarily podcast, but we had a good time sharing our stories. And I think sometimes the best teachings are one we just glean from listening.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So today is going to be a little more focused on teaching because of the topic. And this show, the next couple are probably going to be answers to questions that I get on a very regular basis. And the first thing I want to talk about today is you are a soul. You are a soul. So we talk about soul work. And so before I even get to what that really means, we first have to define what does it mean to be a soul? And here's what I mean. Most of us identify with our bodies and with our minds, which of course the mind is contained in the body. But in fact, we have a body, but we are a soul. And usually we approach life, we approach our journey, we approach ourselves in that way, that we are a body and have a soul. And in fact, it should be the opposite. We are a soul and we have a body, meaning your body is limited to this third dimensional realm. It is born, it gets sick, and it dies. And it experiences all kinds of good things as well. But the soul is, in fact, with you before you're born, through your life journey in the body, and then as your body is complete, and your soul might be complete a certain lifetime, but the soul continues on. So that's why we identify, especially in our teaching, that you are a soul, because the soul is the aspect of you that is eternal, and it does, in fact, carry with it all your beliefs, your thoughts, your ideas, your past lives, your feelings, your experiences. So all of these are contained in the soul, and it is your body that houses the soul, but ultimately, we want to begin to think of ourselves as a soul.
Right. Right. We're not this corporeal form.
Right.
Rather, we are the soul, the entity that dwells within it. And this is just basically our physical form until we're ready to move on.
Exactly. And so having this physical form can be very deceiving because it seems like it really matters if we're born male or female, or if we're gay or straight, or if we're black or white. And in fact, all of those outer things, you're born into this. I have a friend, by the way, who's called it a life wave. You are born into this lifetime or into this life wave a certain way, meaning male or female, gay or straight, whatever your, however you come into this world. You come into this world a certain way because of what it is your soul needs to experience. So it is not happenstance how we're born. It's not happenstance the family we're born into. We are born into a certain place at a certain time to a certain group of people because of, in a certain way, even because of what our soul is here to experience. So for me, this is super important to remember because we often feel like, I've had people say to me over the years, why was I born into this family? I'm unlike all these people. But I'm telling you, as a soul, you were designed to be there because of the lessons you signed up to learn this lifetime. So my teaching, and it's becoming more common now to hear others say it, that we choose to come into bodily form. We choose even the experiences we are going to have this lifetime because we want to learn, grow, and mature as a soul. Well, we might make these choices when we're surrounded by love and light and angels and total goodness, and we come into this world and we have forgotten our most spiritual self, our holy nature that we call the soul. So as we go through life's journey and we experience things, good and bad, up and down, we experience the world as it is, this third dimensional reality. At some point on the journey, we wake up to the fact that that we are a soul and that we're here on a spiritual journey. And those of you who are listening to this show get that more than any other because you've awakened to the fact that you are on a journey. You want to have an authentic spiritual journey. And in fact, you're beginning to do what we call soul work. I hope this is making sense.
Oh,
Dave.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So if we were in church, I'd say, are you with me, friends?
Amen. Here, I have a white hanky. I'll shake it at you.
Dave's shaking a white hanky right now in the studio. I want you to appreciate it. It's not a very nice hanky, but
it's
anyway.
just a napkin. Yeah.
It's a napkin we're pretending is a really nice hanky with his initials on it. But I'll take a breath. I get so excited about this stuff. Sometimes I need a breath. The reason it excites me to talk about the fact that we're our soul is that it gives us a context for how to view our lives. So if, let's say you grow up, you're the youngest of a family, you have a lot of responsibility, you don't know why all the responsibilities fall on you. Well, this could be happening because you had a desire to have that role in the family before you were even born. So even though as you grew up in this, as you grew up in the family system, maybe you were the oldest and it felt like a really tough thing. It was something your soul wanted to experience. And because your soul experienced it, that desire then will be complete. And then you'll move on to other lessons. So you say, well, why would I choose that if it was hard? Well, when the soul is, before the soul comes in, it's surrounded by infinite intelligence, infinite love. And so the soul is choosing from its highest place possible. So when you're born into this lifetime, it's like right before you leave, Dave, I'm going to ask you to look something up. Right before you leave, you get touched by the angel. Right here, Dave. What's this called?
Is that the septum?
Right between your nose and your upper lip, that little indentation there.
That's not the septum?
I can't remember. Look it up to make sure.
Uh-oh.
If you don't mind.
Anatomy class.
And it's like we get touched right there and then we forget everything and we're born into this world. Although we don't really forget because most of us as kids are totally tuned into our soul, but the environment in which we find ourselves often is not reflective of that.
That is the philtrum.
The philtrum, that's it. So it's like we're touched right there on the philtrum, and then we're born, and it's like, oh, why am I here? So anyway, I think there's some aspect where the soul does really remember, but if the people that are raising you, which is another thing I hear all the time, that people will say to me, I remember as a kid, I totally was connected to God. I saw the angels, but nobody around me believed me, and so I forgot myself. I shut that down. That's also part of the soul journey. We do come in ultimately remembering, and I think forgetting is also a part of the journey, so that we then get to move more expansively into our soul and into our soul's journey through all the lessons that we learn. It's like finding our way back to our essence is the reason we're here. So you are a soul, you are not a body. You have a body, but you are a soul. You have a body, but you are a soul. So when life is happening all around you, it's important to remember that when a situation comes to you, you have to make a decision. When you get in your car to go to the store, when you go to spend money, all of the choices that you have to make for yourself are soul choices, meaning that anytime you make a choice, it's not just willy-nilly and it doesn't have impact. As a matter of fact, everything that happens is a soul choice and a soul opportunity for you. So if you have a job opportunity come up and you think to yourself, well, I want this job, okay? The question to be asking is, what does my soul need? Is my soul needing this job? Is my soul desiring is my soul desiring a way to use what I know in a more expansive way? Am I feeling like I'm ready to take on more responsibility? Is my soul ready to experience more financial abundance? So all these are questions that you begin to ask yourself when you are living life from the perspective of being a soul. That everything that comes to you is an opportunity to choose, and that every choice you make even has karmic repercussions. Boy, we're getting really into it here today. But this is how we think of it, realizing that we're a soul. Every choice we make, every thought we think even, every action, every word has karmic implications, and in fact is deciding our soul's next steps. Now, Dave, you're not saying much.
No, I'm just taking it all in.
You're taking it all in. Okay.
Oh,
all right. So this soul journey is super, super important. It's super important to realize that you are a soul, so that when decisions do come to you, when you are just getting in your car to drive down the road, that you realize, when you realize you are a soul, you're going to do it differently than if you're unconscious and just going, okay, I'm just going to the store. You're never just doing anything. Everything you're doing has implications for your soul. Everything you're thinking, everything you are acting out, all the decisions, all the things you say yes to, all the things you say no to, are all have soul implications. And of course, the larger things have larger implications. And so, things are by degrees. I mean, if you, do something that is illegal, that's different from, accidentally littering. I mean, things have different implications for your soul in different levels. But we want to, in fact, become more conscious beings in thinking of and acting from our soul on a regular basis. Are the things we're saying, are the things we're doing conscious in creating a world that works for everyone? Are they conscious? Are they coming from unconditional love? Are they conscious? Are they coming from our highest place? And then where are we sourcing where are we receiving our energy? Where are we receiving our guidance? All of these things are aspects of living from the soul. So the main point thus far today, friends, is I am a soul. I have a body, but I am a soul. And we want to begin to choose to make choices to live from the level of the soul rather than the level of the body or the mind. So this is an important distinction. This is a very, very important distinction. When you are living from the mind, everything seems to be a competition. And when you're living from the soul, there's room for everyone. When you are living from the mind, you're concerned with what people think about you. When you're living from the soul, you love everyone. When you are living from the mind, you think things to death, which we lovingly call analysis paralysis. And when you're living from the soul, you await divine guidance. And that comes often in unexpected times. But often it'll come in a time of space or silence. So if we're living from the mind, we get jealous easily. If we're living from the soul, we see things for what they are and make new choices if we need. If we are living from the mind, we limit how many people we want to have in our sphere of friends. Maybe there's certain rules that we think certain friends need to have. But when you live from the soul, you have all kinds of friends. So I hope you're seeing with me and feeling with me that when you're identifying with the mind, it's a very constricting world. And when you're living from the soul, it's a very freeing world. There's more love, there's more joy, there's more compassion, there's more passion, there's more connectivity with others, there's more connection with God, with nature itself. So we want to source and live from the level of the soul, remembering that we are a soul, even though we have a body and certainly a mind, but we don't want to live from the level of the mind. So we'll talk more about some of these ideas. So after the break, and I know right now you're probably just taking a deep breath going, wow, where am I living from? And I'm doing the same thing myself. So we'll be right back in just a few moments.
We'll return to the program in just a few moments, but first, we wanted to give a special word of thanks to our podcast partner, CCU Orlando, who has helped make this episode of the Authentic Spiritual Journey possible. CCU Orlando is a welcoming community dedicated to transforming lives, celebrating diversity, and supporting soul growth. Christ Church Unity is located at 771 Holden Avenue in Orlando, Florida, with Sunday services at 9 and 11 a.m. You can stream services live online as well as learn more at christchurchunity.net. We'd also like to extend our thanks to our podcast partner, Akins Counseling Center. Cassandra Akins is a licensed mental health counselor dedicated to creating sacred space where clients can explore their own inner process in a safe, non-judgmental, and supportive environment. She works with individuals, couples, and groups who are seeking to live a more authentic life. Akins Counseling Center is located in Winter Park, Florida, and can be found on the web at CassandraAkins.com. And now we return you to this week's episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey.
Welcome back, friends. I hope you are contemplating the thoughts I'm sharing today. I wanted to kind of let you in on a couple things about soul work that I'm certain I've never shared before in this way, and it's really been on my heart the last several days. It's like when I'm really listening to Spirit, and first of all, I'm going to get back to this, but I first need to tell you that the last few days have been pretty busy. I have a full life. I know, I'm sure you do who are listening. It seems like we all do now. I don't know. So many of us are working a couple of jobs or as well as parenting, or maybe we have a full-time day job, but have a side gig, or maybe we're real involved in our spiritual communities. So, life seems busy. And I'm exactly that way myself. Even though I have time every morning where I'm pausing to do my spiritual work and things, sometimes I receive the voice of Spirit that's trying to really have me make space. And the last few days, this has been happening. I have huge to-do lists. Can I have an amen?
Amen.
I've had some huge to-do lists and emails to return and calls to return, and they seem really important. I even had an appointment yesterday, and about 2 hours before my appointed call, I started getting this feeling, do not do the call at 4:30. And the person I was going to be talking to is somebody I love dearly. It wasn't, so don't hear like the universe spared me. It's not that. I was like getting this internal, like, do not.
It was your spiritual check engine light. It just, hey, something's up. You should kind of.
Yeah, it was like, and I'm saying all of this because I want to explain how you start listening to your soul. So I'm kind of giving you the example in advance. So I'm like working with it, and then, another text comes in, and then I have to do an unexpected errand for my son. Something came up, and I finally heard back from the person, hey, I'm good to go at 4:30. And I said, I know this sounds crazy, but I'm really getting guided not to be on the phone at 4:30. And I said, so I'm just going to trust that. And she texted back, and so do I. And, tell me when you want to talk. So this is obviously somebody who does a lot of soul work as well. And we have a great, trust in our relationship. And so I thought, is something going to happen? Am I going to, something going to come up? And it was like, you're just going to sit is what you're going to do. And so I'm in this experience where I'm living in the third dimensional world. I have responsibilities, and there was no big deal about the 4:30 thing. It wasn't like I was, like missing something I had committed to or something. It was just a check-in call with somebody about something at church. So I wasn't shirking any responsibilities, but I was really guided, make space. Made space. And I looked out my window, and it was like, oh yeah, the wind is blowing, the sun is shining. Oh, I see God right here. It was just like my whole spirit kind of breathed. And then I began to feel everything calm down, and then it's like I had this really expanded voice, and I right now I'm holding my hand high over my head. It's like this observer voice. And this observer voice was the voice of my soul having me observe my own experience. What had just happened, me even resisting canceling the call and all that. And then having the experience of God, the wind blowing in the trees, the sun. It's hard to explain, but especially here in Central Florida, there's this beautiful breeze that blows that every time I could tap in, I'm like, oh man, that is God right there. And it really brings me back to myself. So this observer voice was saying, and I heard it just like this. And it was not audible from the outside, but it was a voice, from the inside. And it said this: what is this thing that's pushing you? What if you could let yourself not be pushed? And I breathed into that, and I wanted to cry. It's like, what is this thing pushing me? I have this imaginary drive. I have this need to produce. And I thought, well, I'm a mom too. It's just I have a lot to do. But it's like, no, there's something there I've got to look at. So I'm sharing all of this with you because this is what it's like. This is what it means to do soul work. Is that you pay attention to that voice of the soul that you have to be quiet to hear. And the voice will even often help you be quiet, which is what happened with me. But learning to differentiate the ego voice from the soul voice is very important work indeed. because I've had people, and I myself have marched forward to something, and it's like, oh boy, that was all ego. Now, the good news is your soul knows you so well that your soul often will use your ego to get you where you need to be for your soul. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but I've experienced it so many times and have helped people so many times. So soul work means I'm listening for the inner voice of my soul that speaks in and through my life and that has my best interest in mind. What's also true, though, about the soul is it has the best interest of everyone in mind. So if you feel like your soul's telling you to do something good for you, but not everybody else, probably it's not your soul, because that's not how the soul works. So learning to listen is an important part of living from your soul. Learning to listen not only to the internal guidance, but to the external voices that might come to you as gifts, especially when we're paying attention to a lesson that we're receiving.
So is it kind of just a gut feeling, or is it just some like spidey sense tingling, or?
It can be all of those. The thing that's really important when we're listening for the voice of the soul is to begin to do things and practice things that practice hearing it and then acting and seeing what we get. So I'm answering your question, but it's a long answer. When people are brand new to this idea, I will say to them, well, why don't you ask Spirit every morning what is yours to wear for that day? And they're like, well, what does that matter?
Why would
Spirit care?
Why would divinity come down and tell me, hey, wear the jeans?
Right. Well, the reason we do it on something like that is because I don't want you to do it on your 20-year relationship. Right. Should I leave now? I've had people, if you're having a hard time differentiating the voice, then you could make, an irreversible choice. So you want to try it with things that are not irreversible or that, cause no damage to yourself or others, like something simple, which might be, should I take the ramp to work, or should I take the freeway ramp into the office, or should I go surface streets?
So relatively low risk.
Relatively low risk. And you will see what's so amazing, even these seemingly benign and unimportant decisions, because you have energy around them, people will say things to you like, what a great outfit. And you'll think, this? I just put this together because, you're thinking, well, I was guided to wear this old thing today, and now somebody thinks it looks good. It's 10 years old. So you'll often receive outward affirmation, about that. When you ask Spirit a certain way to go to work, you'll find out when you get there, you avoided an accident that was, a certain way, or it saved you 10 minutes, even though your GPS said it might take you longer.
So kind of like learning to dial in a station. I know, kids these days will never know the idea of
dialing in a
twisting
station.
a dial,
right,
and hearing the static and. But it's kind of like that, and the more you do it, then the more precise you can be.
Well, yes, and your soul operates at a certain vibrational tone. I can really know now, I won't say without a shadow of a doubt, but I have a lot of confidence that I'm hearing my soul voice right now. And if I'm not confident, I don't move. I don't do it.
As opposed to working through ego and
yeah.
I know
exactly.
That happens with teachers, a lot. If they don't know something, they can either tell the student I don't know, or they can make something up.
Yes, right. Never a good idea to make.
It's never a good idea, yeah.
And in the soul journey, it's so important, really, to develop your, as Dave calls it, your spidey sense, your ability to listen with your sixth sense, which of course is your soul. But in my personal experience, when I'm hearing what I call guidance, it comes to me in a very specific, even tone of voice, and I spoke on purpose a little earlier. When I hear it, it's always slow, It's relaxed. It's not, you need to do this, you need to do that. That's always ego voice. Ego is so often arguing. Ego wants to do pros and cons and say, well, you should do this, and should you look at that? And there's nothing wrong with looking at, say, physical evidence. There's nothing wrong with looking at pros and cons. But what's so interesting, sometimes the soul will have you see something that's not a pro or a con. It's a completely different way to see something. And so even now on paper, it might look weird. It might not be logical, but the soul says, this is your step. Like a time I dealt with this years ago. I was almost done with ministerial school, and I had done what was called CPE, which is the chaplaincy program for a hospital. And I felt so guided to do it because I had done a term of it in ministerial school, and I felt like I needed some help in that area. Even though I grew up around people and I grew up in church and I grew up even taking care of sick folks, it's different when you're ministering to them. There are really just certain things you do and don't do. And so I felt like I needed more help with that. So I went to my boss at the time. I was working at a church full time, as well as going to school. And I went to my boss and I said, I'm really being guided to go and do the chaplaincy program at the hospital. And he looked at me and he goes, what? I never would have imagined doing that. You could go be a senior minister right now. I said, yeah, but I'm not supposed to. And he goes, and I trust that. I said, I do too. I just feel with every bone in my body, I got to go do it. And I said, I'm not going to make any money. I think I was making, because you go to school and work for the hospital at the same time, but they give you a stipend, and I mean a stipend, like $25,000 or something. And I was like, $25,000,
and you have to pay rent. And
yeah, right. And I ended up doing. I didn't do a year. I did 9 months because then I did take a church job. But I did 9 months of the program. I was able to make all my bills. Other things came in, so the money was a complete no issue. And I was so strongly guided to do it that I knew the money would work out, and in fact, it did. So even though a couple people around me didn't think, they thought it was like, what? And I will tell you, I use that, I use what I learned in those 9 months nearly every day in ministry. I use it in my relationships, friendships and romantic relationship. And I use it with my members. I use it on hospital visits. I learned so much. So even though to somebody else it didn't seem logical, my soul guidance was so strong that it was mine to do. And I didn't just go in willy-nilly. I had money saved. I knew I had other forms of income. So, I took care of the physical things, but the guidance was so strong, I thought, okay, I know this is going to work out. I ended up receiving money completely out of the blue, and things like that. So when we are doing our deeper soul work, this is how life can be. There's a strong connection and trust with our higher power. And that's the way it's been for me. And I will honestly say, I've never made what I thought was a soul choice, like a big decision. I was really trusting spirit that ended up not being for my highest good. I've never had a decision that I thought was not for my highest good when I've been really, really listening. Now, as I said earlier, I've made quick decisions and go, oh yeah, that's mine to do. And it's like, well, was it really?
Is it though?
Yeah. So this is what I mean about soul work. So, beginning on a low risk, as Dave said, which I thought was a good way to describe it, on low risk situations, to begin to ask Spirit's guidance for your life, and then tune in to listen with your soul. Now, to do that, you're probably going to need some kind of daily practice. I would not suggest you even try this if you're not going to spend time daily in silence, because you won't be hearing your soul, you'll be hearing ego. And again, as I mentioned, your soul is so intelligent, the soul will use your ego sometimes to get you places. Sometimes we take things because jobs or opportunities because we think we're going to make a lot of money, and then we get there and it's like, well, the money's great, but the situation is terrible. Right. And your soul goes, that's right. You need to grow this. You need to learn this. You need to expand your awareness and understanding of yourself, and that's why you're here. So that's what I mean, that sometimes you'll be put in situations that your ego doesn't like, but your ego got you there because of the money or because of the status or because of the whatever, and it's like, wow, your soul says, great, let's go. So this is how the soul, in fact, can even use our ego. Our soul, remember, is attached to infinite intelligence. It's attached to eternity. It's eternity itself. But your soul is also in the here and now reality. So even though I'm here talking with Dave in his studio, I'm actually limitless. That's the truth of each of us. You are limitless. Even if you're driving in your car or at home painting a closet or fixing something in the garage, you are in the here and now reality. Your soul is here present with you, but you are limitless in potential because your soul is connected to, I said, eternity, infinity itself, right? So the very cosmos is alive in you because you are limitless. This is a very, very important aspect to remember. It's why your soul is more intelligent than your mind, because your mind can only see so far. And the mind is so attached and intertwined with the ego that the mind can only see what's right in front of it. I think several months ago, I described living from the soul as a bit of a mountaintop experience. And the ego lives at the base of the trail. The ego can only see what's right in front of it, and it can only see how hard it's going to be. And the soul can see how, from such a high distance, how you're going to get there, what pitfalls there may be, and even places of rest for you. So it's very, very important to remember to access the soul on a daily basis. Our work that we do here at the Authentic Spiritual Journey is about becoming conscious beings. Everything we do at CCU Orlando is about becoming conscious beings, doing our best to hear God's divine guidance for us, to follow that guidance in that direction, and then move out into the world to be a blessing wherever we go. So my encouragement to you is to love yourself enough to spend some time every day in a time of quiet and silence, to spend some time every day beginning to listen to your soul, and then, in fact, starting to tap in by daily listening, getting direction, and then moving forward. And remember that moving forward is really important, because if you get the idea and you get the guidance and you don't move forward, this is problematic.
Yeah, and I want to say that I would encourage our listeners not to walk around in fear that they're missing, like, oh, I didn't do it right. I thought I heard God, and I was supposed to take the exit, but I didn't take the exit. And now you've knocked yourself out of alignment with the universe. The universe is a little more resilient than that.
Well, yes, and I'm glad you mentioned that. There's so much grace for us in this process. I don't know if there is really a doing it wrong on the soul journey. What we're trying to do, we get infinite chances, praise God. We get infinite chances on the soul journey. Sometimes we have to wait other lifetimes, but we do get infinite chances. And again, these low risk things, which exit you take, what clothes you wear. It's pretty hard to do it wrong, because there is no wrong. So what we want to do, we're only doing these things to be able to differentiate the voice between ego and soul. And again, you will know that by the feeling you have, by the response you receive back from the universe, from people, from friends, from individuals, and it'll seemingly come out of the blue, but it's like you've enlivened the environment around you to give you feedback. Once you begin working with your soul, it like wakes up all the energy around you to begin to give you positive feedback and affirmation that you are heading the right direction. Right might not be the right word, but that you are heading in the soul's, the way the soul has directed you. So we want you to be encouraged. Yeah, this is by no means anything to feel bad about. You can start today. And the good news is the soul, in God, there's no time and space. So in every moment, all moments are contained. So right now, if you have never, ever done what I'm thinking about and talking about right now, you can start now and you're good to go.
Yeah, you can pull up one of our moments of meditation, that go out every Wednesday and dial it up and There's always a moment of silence in those, so go for it.
Yeah, there's also on my website, there's several different meditations I have. One is called the I Am Meditations. Those are really, really helpful because those meditations I have each day, there's more and more silence in those. There's another one I have called Purpose, and that helps you as well. So yeah, a lot of good resources, a lot of great resources on the podcast channel as well with the Friday. They're called Moments of
Friday. I think I said Wednesday, but yeah, Friday.
Friday those come out. Anyway, thank you for joining us, dear friends. As always, bless you on the journey. I hope you feel encouraged to listen to your soul because your soul has great big things to do, and we see you being supported and blessed on the journey. Thank you again for being with us for the Authentic Spiritual Journey.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Authentic Spiritual Journey presented by CCU Orlando and Akins Counseling Center here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This channel is made possible through the continued support of our angel patrons, Dove Borland, Peter Gibson, Paul Caswell, and J.J. Hamilton, along with our partner patrons, CCU Orlando and Akins Counseling Center. If you would like to help be a part of bringing shows like this and other programs to the channel, please consider becoming a patron. You can learn more about supporting the channel, along with show notes and information about our other programs at experienceofthesoul.com. And if you enjoyed this podcast, you can help spread the word by leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, or the platform of your choice. The Authentic Spiritual Journey is copyright 2019, Cynthia Alice Anderson, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.